public spaces, the plazas, trails, gardens, libraries, parks, were once the centers of our neighborhood, the pride of our downtowns, and the places of our most cherished celebrations. But for decades, support for these civic assets declined. And during this time of underinvestment and apathy, our civic spaces stopped providing the connective tissue that binds us together as people, anchors our neighborhoods, and enhances our quality of life. When civic anchors like parks, trails, and community centers start to decline, entire neighborhoods can unravel. The result is more than just overgrown ball fields and lackluster libraries. Gone are the open doors and the shared spaces. Gone are the relationships cultivated in these special places. Research shows that now Americans spend less time in social settings, interact infrequently with those whose experiences are different from their own, and as a result, trust one another less. This growing mistrust is exacerbated by the pervasive negativity amplified by 24-hour news and nonstop social media. Partner that with the accelerated rise in classism and social segregation, and what society begins to have is a divided community and an isolated population. All of this allows for the growing polarization of our nation in general and our communities more specifically. And while there are a myriad of reasons for this disconnection and fragmentation has a devastating impact on us all. From the 2017 mass shootings to the major protests in cities across our nation, we are witnessing what happens when we lose our connection to one another, feel disenfranchised, and are surrounded by a sense of hopelessness and despair. One reaction is to seal ourselves behind gated communities and locked doors. At best, strangers to our neighbors, and worse, fearful of or angry towards them. My hometown of Memphis stands in the crosshairs of these very issues. In fact, in July of 2017, 24/7 Wall Street called Memphis one of the most starkly racially divided cities in our nation. Couple that with our poverty rate of 26%, 44% of our children living below the poverty line, and the divisions between race, income, and class become depressingly apparent. So how do we as a city, as a nation, begin the mammoth task of tempering our anger, of facing our fears, of stepping out of our silos of sameness to reconnect with one another, and to redefine our values with tolerance, understanding, and acceptance? Well, there are a myriad of ways to deal with that, through the arts or music, through sports or mentoring, or through better use of our city's public spaces. Great public spaces provide neutral ground where we can gather, where we can spend time in shared activity and get to know one another through common experiences. Think about it. How did you get to know the people you're closest to? You spent time together, right? You worked in the same space or on the same project. You watched the same movies or saw the same dramas play out. And in doing so, you talked with one another. You shared ideas and feelings. You celebrated successes or witnessed failures. You developed insight or gained perspective. And in this, you had the opportunity to get to know people as individuals, not as a representative of a certain race or class or culture. You got to know the person And it is these personal interactions that lay the foundation for a bridge that spanned age or race. And it gave you an opportunity to really get to know one another, because it is through communing with people different from ourselves that we develop personally and that we have the opportunity to develop empathy, right? And that's the place we're building on the Memphis Riverfront, a place where people from all over our community feel welcome, where they're drawn to our outdoor exercise equipment, where they love our splash park, our 5 miles of connected riverfront sidewalk, our pedestrian bridge that spans the Mississippi River from Tennessee to Arkansas, from our scale model of the lower Mississippi River, complete with 20 full city grids and a Gulf of Mexico, from our amazing views and our breathtaking vistas. In Memphis, we are creating a place where families play, where walkers, joggers, and cyclists jockey for sidewalk position, where teams practice, where hogs are barbecued, where yoga poses are struck, where vows are exchanged, where fireworks are displayed. However, as you might imagine, this congregation of people in a single place also brings with it some unique challenges. Cruising causes gridlock. Young people blast music. Parking can be a nightmare. Crowds get rowdy. People behave badly, and residents complain. The tensions that arise between well-used public spaces and the challenges that they bring must be embraced. We must not retreat behind our gates or return to our silos. We must not designate certain areas for them and claim other areas for ourselves. Instead, we must seek insight and understanding, inviting them to the discussion and to the decision-making. Because it is when we are intentional about creating public spaces that are inclusive and welcoming that we become a catalyst for creating safe places where common purpose is valued and the general welfare of all is nurtured. And in doing these things, we are able to get past the things that are most difficult. For instance, finding the political will, the community support, and the necessary funds to build the infrastructure to create the change we wish to see. And then there is the monumental effort that is needed to sustain the change, that is needed to maintain the public realm, to create the programs, to solidify the transformation that then leads to tolerance, understanding, and acceptance across this generation and to the next. In fact, there is a national effort afoot called Reimagining the Civic Commons, where they want to demonstrate how strategic investment in our civic spaces can connect people of all backgrounds, can cultivate trust, and can begin to counter the effects of both economic and social fragmentation in our nation, across our cities, and in our neighborhood. And I believe they're onto something, so much so that I encourage you to experience for yourself the power of public spaces. I challenge you to leave this place, to step away from your computer screens, to pocket your cell phone, to instead go for a walk on the new River Line or Green Line, ride your bike over to the park, visit your public library, and while you're there, strike up a conversation with someone you might not ordinarily even speak to. That one effort just may be the positive step needed to lay the next plank in building a bridge to a